What if the doctors were wrong? What if conditions as varied as cellulite and hair loss, even lifelong scoliosis, could be rubbed away in a matter of weeks?
Cellulite isn't real. It's just the connective tissue, and it's not even fat. Ever wondered if you could use your Fasciablaster on your back for scoliosis?
And all you needed was this cheap, made in China, plastic wand.
We've seen this so many times that I even talked about it on my TED Talk. We actually went to market before we had the scientific studies.
Would you be surprised if millions of women saw a chance to change their lives forever?
I think Ashley just put plastic surgeons out of business.
Or that soon after it arrived on the market, many women started reporting that the device was ruining their bodies.
You know, the protocol was use till you bruise.
My skin just started to slide down my body.
From a lymphatic standpoint, you are causing extreme amounts of damage.
And props up the device's reputation with fake reviews.
You'll find nearly 100% 5-star reviews for each and every product.
This is the story of how a self-proclaimed anti-cellulite guru started an empire built on pseudoscience and grift. And yet, remarkably, despite selling more than $175 million worth of the product, she's running short on funds and asked her audience to back her company with a crowdfunding Hail Mary.
We raised a little over $3 million from our own audience.
Based on what's being disclosed, it sounds like Ashley has taken or been given a $5 million loan from this money. And
She sold $200 million worth of Fasciablaster products already. So I don't know why she would need crowdsource funding at all if she's making that much profit in the products that she's already doing.
It's also about the extreme lengths that the founder will go to in order to threaten, sue, and silence whistleblowers who call her out. And remarkably, how even one of the most conservative Supreme Courts in the country sanctioned her for filing frivolous lawsuits.
Ashley Black is actively chilling free speech on the internet and using their lawsuit to advertise what happens when you criticize Ms. Black or her product.
Today I'm going to tell you about a potentially dangerous device called Fasciablaster and its crooked founder who leveraged women's insecurities to make herself rich.
I'm Ashley Black, and I'm here to change the world.
I didn't know anything about Fasciablaster until a few weeks ago, when some of you right here on YouTube sent me pictures of women with horrible bruises on their legs and stories about rapid weight gain. They'd been rubbing this plastic stick across their skin until their blood vessels burst, all in the name of a miracle cure for cellulite.
Look at your upper thigh. What is that? That's cellulite. That's going to spread everywhere.
Oh, what do I have to do?
From top 10 pro athletes to Hollywood to the Victoria's Secret runway, Ashley uses this $89 tool to move muscles and joints to get at the fascia below and transform pain.
The woman behind it was a self-styled health guru. I mean, she literally calls herself a guru named Ashley Black. My sources warned me that Black was intensely litigious and has bullied and threatened just about everyone who's ever called her out. Which I guess, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that this is exactly the kind of story that I like digging into. So I did. I've probably put in 100 hours combing over legal documents, fascia tutorials, and talking to victims and scientists and even financial experts to expose the depths of this self-flagellating wellness grift. And while this story is fascinating, or maybe, fascinating, in and of itself, I think there's actually more to it than that. This is the story of an anatomy of a type of consumer-level wellness scam that is indicative of our natural desire to cure any human ailment with a miracle device and a discount code. It's about the predictable life cycle of those fads after they fail to live up to their promises and the desperate strategies of the founders to exit before it all goes belly up. Now, you should know that I reached out to Ashley Black on several occasions while I was reporting this piece, even posting a plea to Instagram and YouTube to get her attention when she didn't respond to my emails at first. Hi, this is a message for Ashley Black. My name is Scott Carney. I'm an investigative journalist out of Denver, Colorado, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond. Eventually, she did reply with this note where she agreed to an interview. She called many of my sources liars and also urged me to drop this story. And then you can hit pause if you want to go read the whole thing. Unfortunately, she ultimately backed out of her commitment to talk with me directly, so you will just have to rely on her own recorded words and the public record of overturned court cases, canned science, injuries, threats, and financial disclosures to make up your own mind about what happened. So let's go. Exercise fads are nothing new. Every generation invents new devices and methods and protocols and promises to cure the malaise of the age. In the 1950s, millions of people tried out vibrating belt machines to shake their fat away.
If you don't mind a mauling, you don't have to work. The machines do everything. They beat you and knead you and pummel you and shake you.
In the 1980s and 90s, butt masters and thigh masters took over the airwaves and streamed into every home in America.
Suzanne Summers and the Buttmaster Dancers!
Every single time you squeeze Thigh Master, you strengthen and tone right where you need it.
And who can forget the shake weight?
Shake weight harnesses the power of dynamic inertia to totally redefine strength training.
Above all else, the holy grail of promises is simple. These exercises and devices wouldn't only make you trim, but could specifically target whatever part of your anatomy most irks you. Technically, the claim is called spot fat reduction.
Actually able to spot reduce fat.
And every single device failed to deliver on the promise. Indeed, a spate of research over the last half-century has conclusively proven that spot fat reduction is a myth. But that hasn't stopped us from wishing that it existed. In the early 2010s, Ashley Black was working as a massage therapist in Texas when she had a stroke of genius. She had been using these cheap Chinese octopus massagers that you can get on Amazon or Alibaba for a few bucks to ease her clients' muscle pain, and she thought that she might be able to innovate by gluing them onto a stick. But the innovation didn't stop there. Drawing on her extensive academic connections and a team of scientists from NASA, Black...
Yeah, no scientists from NASA.
Oh, so there weren't any experts?
No experts.
And no science?
No science.
But her qualification, she has a medical degree, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh. So it's just a bunch of octopus massagers on a stick.
Yeah, she doesn't even have a college degree.
Right. Well, that's what she did. She put some plastic prongs on a stick and started to sell it for $89. I guess that was enough. At first, she targeted the same clients she rubbed down in her massage parlors, mostly athletes and the like. But through the magic of internet marketing and SEO, she soon discovered that a lot of women were concerned about cellulite. And soon the wand was able to fix just that. Could you just tell me, what you mean by it being a scam?
Is that she had a product that that she marketed improperly without any medical knowledge of what it could do to basically make money.
Mm-hmm.
And, at one point she said, I don't give a F if they buy it and throw it in the closet as long as they buy it. And she was bragging about how much money she was just going to make on the shipping alone.
That's her then husband, Dari Samia. Of course, she needed an explanation for why it worked. And she came to decide that the key was how her device targeted the little understood tissue in the human body that you've probably heard of, called fascia. So what is fascia?
Fascia is not just that stuff that's in the connective tissue matrix, it's everywhere. It connects everything to everything else. And so this tissue that used to be thrown away in dissections for anatomy for hundreds of years, honestly, is now taken a front stage of being a very important structure in the way you move and how it communicates up to the brain and controls the way we feel about our body.
You've probably come across fascia while eating a steak. It's that white, stringy stuff that sometimes gets stuck between your teeth. These collagen strands suffuse all muscle and all tissues. But as far as anatomical structures go, fascia's role has generally been understudied by physiological researchers, with bench science really only kicking in the last few years. which means it's also ripe for a pseudoscientific grift.
My name is Alexis Leveillé. I'm a physical therapist down in Montreal, and I have a debunking page called No Bullshit Physio, where I just expose bad science.
Alexis is one of many journalists trying to bring sanity to the griftoverse of wellness influencers.
If you hear someone talking a lot about fascia, that is a very big red flag, because fascia is poorly understood. It's because it's the Wild West. We don't really know what it does. We just know it has a role. It's an important tissue that was not known about before. So you can say anything you want because there's no data outright disproving claims. It's ripe for, charlatans.
Most wellness grifts follow this same basic pattern. They identify a problem that we can all agree would be great to solve, whether it's longevity or attractiveness or mental clarity or fatigue or chronic illness, and then they say that the solution was lying in plain sight all along.
And it's only been in the past few years that even I made the connection between fascia and cellulite. You see, people who study fascia don't study cellulite, and people who study cellulite don't study fascia. So we all somehow just sort of missed it.
But we are supposed to believe that Ashley Black intuitively understood a secret that no one else had.
Ashley Black's claims do not make any anatomical sense. I'm Martin Carney, a plastic surgeon and Scott's cousin. The thing is, we do know the cause of cellulite. It's fibrous septate bands that pull down on the skin and create dimpling. The best procedure and the best cure that we know of for cellulite is a mechanical one where we go under the skin and we cut the fibrous bands to release the dimpling.
Honestly, simply lying is an incredibly effective marketing technique. And once the product made it into the hands of consumers, Black cemented the impression of its efficacy with 5-star reviews and anecdotes that appealed to people's emotions and not their common sense. Here's a note from one of her employees who sent me an email detailing what it was like to work underneath Ashley Black.
She turned off reviews on Facebook because she couldn't control the bad reviews, so she just turned them off. Instead, she started having the reviews hosted through her website, and they also have to be pre-approved before they will go through. Because of this, you'll find nearly 100% 5-star reviews for each and every product. Then, if you look into it a little further, you will find the same names reviewing over and over again. These names will be employees, or independent contractors rather, former employees, higher level staff, motivators, family members, and eventually the affiliates also began to do it as well. Again, the relationship to the company is never mentioned. Again, not legal. This way, no one will ever find anything negative.
This tactic is just one of many reasons that you should remember that anecdotes are not evidence. Not only are anecdotes unreliable because they represent just a single person's experience, even when that person is being honest, but they're also incredibly easy to fake and manipulate on social media. So too were her hilariously bad attempts at photoshopping results. Like this one, which clearly shows a photoshopped body on an older woman, demarcated by 2 different skin tones above and below the neck. Like most wellness grifters, Black's success also relied on developing a convincing enough sounding scientific language for why her specific $3 Chinese octopus massager on a stick was worth the markup above all other similarly ineffective anti-cellulite tools on the market. So here she is explaining how the different products in her Fasciablaster line are supposed to work.
So just looking at the anatomy, Fasciablasting makes so much sense because you're not going to be able to roll over this like a foam roller and get in there. You can't beat on this and get in there. You can't even cut and get in there. That's going to give you a little stretch. What you've got to be able to do is to have a tool that penetrates down into these fibers.
Now, take a step back for a second and think about this. What do you think is going to happen when you run a claw laterally across your body as you aim to target ever deeper layers of tissue?
So I use my friend's Fasciablaster, I guess we call it today, and my legs look ridiculous. These are bruises. These are all bruises.
The protocol was used till you bruise.
Here are Black's explicit instructions.
On a pain scale of 1 to 10, look at my face. On a pain scale of 1 to 10, don't go over a 7, okay? Yes, you want it to hurt a little because
That way you know you're breaking through the adhesions, but you do not want it to hurt a 10, okay?
According to the pain rating scale employed by the Department of Defense, a rating of 7 is, quote, severe pain where it forces you to focus your attention on it and prevents a person from doing their daily activities. This is just one step under awful, hard to do anything. In other words, her warning to, quote, not go to 10 is still almost a guarantee that you will cause damage. And after the break, I'm going to tell you how much damage it actually caused. But first, a word from our sponsors, which is you. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. This sort of work is incredibly complex, whether it's my hard-hitting investigative journalism or my interviews with amazing thinkers. Time and again, billionaire companies have tried and failed to shut me down, like the time that AG1 hired the most expensive law firm on the planet to threaten me, only to go on full retreat when I proved that they were lying. When the story came out, the CEO got fired. And I couldn't do this sort of reporting without your help. It means the world to me that you are watching this right now, and there's a couple things you can do to support my work in the future. There's obviously the algorithm part of things where you hit that like and subscribe button down below, but more importantly, I just want you to know that I have this Substack newsletter where premium subscribers can get early access to my work before it comes out here on YouTube and be part of a community who cares about journalism. So please check out that link below. With that out of the way, back to our program.
My name is Christopher DePrato. I'm a physical therapist at UCSF Medical Center and Medical School. I've been a physical therapist for about 22 years now. If you go by the prescribed format of something like the Fasciablaster, they tell you to do things up to 20 minutes of aggressive and deep pressure, where at the end of those treatments, you're going to be bruised. From a lymphatic standpoint, you are causing extreme amounts of damage.
By her own account, Black took to the market before she had any clinical research on Fasciablaster. And that worked for a while, but eventually she realized that she needed some sort of evidence to convince people that she wasn't just making things up. So she paid an in-house scientist named T. Bard Jamison $2 million to run ultrasounds on women using Fasciablaster over the course of several weeks to show how her octopus wand was changing their anatomy. In contradiction to just about every other study done on cellulite, Jamison reported that, quote, these results indicate that FMT and FBD fasciablasting is generally safe and may be a viable method for treating cellulite. Here's DePrato again.
So every study you ever read, you should always go down to the very end and see who the funding source was. If the funding source is from a specific individual that has a financial investment in the data looking a certain way, right away that study usually needs to be thrown away. And the details really matter with this, because if you understand that she's claimed to have spent $2 million on a study, that means she's paying people to come up with data that looks good for her business investments, which is really scary. And so if anyone that understands academia should understand that if that's the funding source, that study really should hold 0 to no weight.
Still, for thousands of women, merely the appearance of scientific rigor was enough to get them to spend almost $100 on Fasciablaster and spread the message of its efficacy in flashy and highly curated social media feeds. But of course, there came a backlash. Not long after the Fasciablaster hit the market, a few women started reporting that the problems didn't stop at just bruising. The Fasciablaster actually detached skin from the underlying muscle, creating this weird skin suit-like effect along with rapid weight gain. This is Karen Wallace, the owner of a beauty parlor in Texas.
Oh gosh, it was skin detachment, like in a way that was like what a plastic surgeon had told me. They said it looked like I had gained and lost, 300 pounds when I have never been significantly overweight. My skin just started to slide down my body. Like on my arms, it was sliding back and down. Even my sons were like, Mom, what's wrong with your elbow? And I'm like, I can't see my elbow. Like, what's wrong with my elbow? And they're like, looks like a baby elephant knee. Like it was sliding down.
Here's what she looked like before using Fasciablaster. And this is a clip from a video that she posted in 2017, and for me, it's hard to even believe that she's the same person.
I know a lot of people are having these issues, so I wanted to show you mine. On the arms, you see these ripples here. But now that I have all this extra skin, if I just pull up even slightly on that, that goes away. So that is not cellulite, even though it looks like it. It's loose skin. This was never detached before. This was never loose before. I never had that apron before. But now, not just is it loose skin and very pliable and pulling away like that in a weird way, I learned a trick. I can slinky my stomach.
Karen was hardly the only one.
I've heard other women call it a landslide. When you disturb the fascia, your skin attaches to fascia. And so if you're tearing this fascia, what is the skin going to adhere to? So yeah, I have a lot of sagging in my upper thighs.
It damages these tissues to a point where you're causing permanent damage.
Karen began posting on Facebook and even started talking to Ashley Black over Messenger.
In my private message, she told me that no one else had gained weight, no one else had had any problems. I was the only one. I mean, like an idiot for a minute, I believed her. And then I asked the question one day, who else has had these problems? Like, is it anybody else gained weight? Has anybody else had these problems? And immediately, like, that one question blew up. Like 700 women commented on it. And then before they had a chance to take it down, there were people that had gotten in touch with me through that and told me about like this anti-group.
Ashley Black saw the post that Karen and other women were writing about the ill effects of her product as an existential threat to her company. After all, if people were following her advice and blasting their fascia to the point of injury, she could have a real PR problem on her hands. Sales would suffer. She could get sued. So she pulled a page right out of every rich bully's playbook and went on the attack. Black filed a lawsuit against Wallace and the other commenters for their Facebook posts, telling them that they had to remove the content or she would take it all the way. True to her word, she hired a private investigator out of Los Angeles who sent threatening letters and spied on the forums that sprang up to warn women about possible harms. Honestly, I could do an entire video on the twists and turns of this case as it wound its way through various court proceedings and bullying maneuvers. But I will spare you those details unless you want me to do another video, in which case just tell me down below. But what you need to know right now is that Karen Wallace did the inexplicable. She fought Ashley Black tooth and nail every step of the way. Every time Black lost one legal case, she immediately filed an appeal in a vindictive attempt to bludgeon Wallace into submission. But Karen Wallace is a fighter, and it didn't work. They took the case all the way to the Texas Supreme Court, who in 2020 filed a devastating judgment against Black. Here's an excerpt.
Black has engaged in a deliberate plan to discredit and quiet their detractors, prevent or remove negative reviews of ADB's products, and threaten those who made negative comments. For example, Black and her spies were watching them.
And that Black was actively chilling free speech.
Ashley Black is actively chilling free speech on the internet and using their lawsuit to advertise what happens when you criticize Ms. Black or her product.
The case ended with Black paying $125,000 in sanctions in order to deter her from filing similar frivolous lawsuits in the future. This was a huge win in a state that has some of the weakest protections on free speech in the country. Here's Wallace again.
You have to understand that when somebody is a liar, that they can't stop lying, that it's never going to not be a lie. Like, she doesn't care about what she's doing to people because, you know, all she's going to do is go on to the next con.
After the lawsuit, Ashley Black's business, well, it sort of looked like it was falling apart. Right now, her Instagram looks like she buys thousands of likes at a time with suspiciously few comments, and some posts getting almost no traction at all despite her having 3 million followers. I mean, seriously, 17,000 likes and only a handful of comments? You can do better, Ashley. She recently listed her house in Firewood, Texas for sale and appears to be taking a $1 million loss on it with the pending offer. In other words, Black, she needs money quickly. In 2024, she turned to the miracle of the internet to raise funds directly from her fan base with no wand included. Now, if you go through her website, you will see an option to invest with us, which leads to a crowdfunding website called WeFunder, which states that she raised $3.4 million from 4,727 so-called investors. And I am sure she's going to regret this later, but she helpfully posted the last several years of her company's financial statements for public scrutiny. Now, I am not a financial expert, but I suspected that something was off the minute I saw it. Was this a real investment, or was it an exit plan for a failing scam? Luckily, I do know a few fellow experts here on YouTube who could look into those numbers a little more thoroughly.
Hi, my name's Richard Coffin, also known as the Plain Bagel online. I work as a portfolio manager / investment analyst here in Canada, but online I post content about finance investing, just a big finance nerd kind of at the end of the day.
The first question I wanted to ask Richard was whether or not he thought this was a worthwhile investment.
You know, based on what she's posted online, it's not really investing in this company more than it is just lending them money. At least that's how it was kind of proposed. The short answer is no. From my perspective, it's a high risk business that's really focused on just one person's brand, and that comes with a lot of risk.
While there wasn't enough detail to say that this was outright fraud, two parts of her financial statements were quite troubling.
Based on what's being disclosed, it sounds like Ashley has taken or been given a $5 million loan from this money. And it highlights that $3.7 million was given directly to this managing member, and that $2 million was given to ADB Lifestyle LLC, which from my understanding is an Ashley Black owned company. Which is interesting because, you know, that adds a layer of conflict, right?
And second, the quote investment wasn't for equity in the company as one normally expects that word would mean. Instead, it was for something called a convertible note.
Convertible note is basically a loan that has the option of eventually turning into shares. And they pay like a 10% interest rate, which is seemingly very attractive. The issue is that because it's convertible, because of details left in the statements, that 10% interest might not be paid out in cash. It might just be paid in shares, meaning that effectively the people who have given this money, has loaned this money, might not see that cash returned to them in kind, but rather in the form of shares, which that becomes a lot more questionable. When you have a company like this, getting your money out requires either the company buy back the shares themselves, or there's a promise of a future payoff with an IPO or some sort of listing of like, well, if you just hold on, eventually we'll get so big that we can actually list on an exchange, and that's when you'll be able to sell your shares. I don't see this company going public.
In other words, whatever Black does in terms of the total number of shares available or whether or not the company ever goes public, it could be that her investors don't have a path to get their money back at all.
You issued 24 million new shares of stock. You were told that if new investors came along... How much were your shares diluted? How much were his?
What was Ms. Ashley Black's
ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
One of the things that comes out of her statements was the unsurprising finding that the company puts almost no value in actual science. In a section titled Operating Expenses, Ashley Black Incorporated shows that it spent $8.6 million on advertising and marketing in 2022, but only $21,000 on research and development. This is at least a little surprising because the campaign also promotes her brand new rotating fascia blasting device, which, when I look at it, frankly terrifies me. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I did reach out to Ashley Black on multiple occasions when I was digging into her finances. After initially agreeing, she ended up ghosting me. So I don't know if she has cogent answers for why this is definitely not a scam. But in my reading of this, I think there is a decent chance that Ashley Black may try to exit the fascia blasting market entirely and find a buyer for her company so that she can live in the lap of luxury in her mansion in Costa Rica outside of an area where America has civil jurisdiction. I'll let the plain Bagel have the last word on her finances.
But you do have to consider why is she raising money from fans and followers versus, say, banks and institutions. And usually there it's because the banks and institutions wouldn't see this as a good deal.
So I have to ask you this, knowing what you know now, do you trust Ashley Black? So putting this all together, I can't say that I'm surprised that someone made a fortune with a cheap plastic device built around the idea that all you need to do to get rid of your cellulite is to hurt yourself until you bruise. Women are constantly shamed online for small imperfections that are natural and unfortunately inevitable as part of being human. It was the simplest thing in the world for Ashley Black to capitalize on that sentiment without any independent science backing her up at all. She succeeded because we all want to believe in a dream where we can live up to impossible ideals with simple fixes. There's probably more to this story to tell. Who knows? Ashley Black may decide to threaten and sue me like she has done to so many other people in order to suppress the truth. Should that happen, I'll be sure to give you updates all along the way. Thanks so much for staying with me on this exploration of yet another iteration of the rise and fall of a wellness grift. I am so grateful to all of you who have supported my channel over the years as I've taken on grifters and disingenuous scientists and companies all around the world. Your support means the world to me. If you want to stay on top of these stories that I have coming out, and even better, directly support this channel by getting early access to my videos, please go check out my Substack newsletter down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, keep an eye out for the grifters. Thank you so much to all of my supporters on Patreon and on Substack who make this work possible. If you want early access and to get your name on the honor roll, please check out those links down below. And it just means the world to me that you're here. From PokeyBear LLC in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates.